near-death experiences, out-of-body experiences. What is it that is laying in the hereafter? And is our consciousness able to reconnect with these realms of the hereafter? I am your host, Marianne van Driel, and you are listening to a brand new series of the Next Truth podcasts. Let's ask questions. Yesterday evening, I had an awe-inspiring interview with author and expert in near-death experiences and out-of-body experiences, Lynn Kathleen Russell. And during her interview, she mentioned a few examples which is containing of true nightmare stuff about how people came back from the realms of the dead, as well as that particular people who have these near-death experiences can describe and tell stories about things they could not have known. Is our consciousness creating reality? Is that what we are living in? A holographic projection created by our consciousness. And what is consciousness? Lynn Kathleen Russell takes you on a journey that goes beyond your imagination. You just mentioned that we get so busy. I just now I was watching an interview of somebody, and this man who was conducting the interview said that nothing really matters in life if you have this near-death experience or an extreme, intense out-of-body experience and you come back. Nothing in this reality has that much importance as before your experience.
Yeah.
So
that's absolutely, and that's one of the things about people who come back readjusting to being here, because their experience there is so much more real than here.
Yeah.
This place doesn't seem like it's authentic when they come back. So that's a common comment. Yeah.
So and before that clip, I was watching the same interviewer, but also with a similar topic or about a near-death experience, about a man who something collapsed in his body and he lost extreme lot of blood. He reconnected with his father, but was being drawn into a black pit, but not quite. And he was also talking about this reality that he experienced, which felt odd, but extremely real. So I also had to think about one of my own experiences, and I believe I mentioned that to you in your podcast from 2020, by the way, so it's almost 2 years now. And that I think I was about 11 or 12, and I was laying on the couch, and first my legs fell in a very pitch black hole, and then I felt that sinking down, and then suddenly my torso was being
well,
Ah,
as if nothing was there anymore, and because I didn't want to go into that, I didn't want to fall into that, I quickly grabbed the side of the couch, just to hold on to something
yeah.
that I wasn't falling in. So I had to think about that moment as well. So this pitch black thing, what do you think it is? This
Well,
pitch black,
yeah,
this
that's
void.
called the void. It's called
Oh,
the
the void.
void, and it happens to quite a few people that they have this feeling of being absolutely in nothingness. Um,
Yeah.
I don't know, except I do know that we create our own experiences. So, whatever, like you said about places being very real, whatever some people go to gardens and mountains and different places, and and
Yeah.
they see themselves as having a body, and they see their loved ones in physical form. All of that is our creation because we are still connected to being physical and human. And that's our bonding. We bonded here. So when we go there, we're carrying that bond with us. And
Yeah.
so I guess this would be people who don't have an idea of where what heaven would be like. And so they just allow nothingness to happen. That's the only thing I can think of. But I do know that when people go into the void, they're usually only there for a very short time, sometimes seconds and sometimes minutes, but not a long time. And they'll see this prick of light, and it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger until they're engulfed in the light, and then they have their death experience.
Well, I didn't saw uh, a prick of light anywhere, but
Yeah,
I'm also not sure if I had this near-death experience. I was too afraid to fall into to
yeah,
nothing,
yeah,
and I was too afraid for the huge blackness.
yeah,
It was completely surrounding me with nothing. So I
yeah,
was too afraid to step into that or
yes,
to fall into that
yeah,
and to lose myself in that. So I grabbed the couch not to fall into that. But
yeah.
it is an experience, even though I haven't seen the common things people tell about when they come back. But even though I didn't.
It sounds like you had an OBE or an out of body experience, and but you pulled yourself back before it was completed. And it also sounds like you went down instead of up, but that doesn't mean a
Oh,
lot.
that is a very creepy thing to go down because according to the sacred writings, that is hell. I do not
Yeah,
want to
yeah,
go to
yeah,
hell.
yeah,
No,
yeah,
I like to
yeah,
think of myself as a good person. So
yeah,
I want to
of
go
course.
up instead of down.
Yeah.
Hello and welcome to the brand new series of the Next Truth podcast. Let's ask questions. Today, I'm welcoming back author and expert on near death and out of body experiences, Lynn Kathleen Russell. My apology. And speak with her about what is oneness? How can we tap into that? And can we explain the hereafter through quantum physics? Lynn, welcome back to the radio show of the Next Truth. Like I said, it has been a very long time since that we have spoken. Please update us on what you have been doing in the past almost 2 years.
Yes, and thank you so much for having me because I'm delighted to be here. I enjoy chatting with you very much. So, what have I been doing? Writing. Lots and lots of writing. I have written a children's book that I've had published, and it's called Warple, And
Yes.
it's just a big warm fuzzy, actually. But it's for tweens, and it has lots of warm fuzzy little creatures in it. And and anyway, this young fellow, he's about 13, goes into another world, another dimension, and
Yes.
he goes into the dimension of Oracle, and that's where the name of this world is. So anyway, and there he learns, and he's got a bit of an attitude because he's getting mad about things, angry. Anyway, the creatures teach him that we are never alone, that there's always the oneness, that anger and hostility or resentment come back at you and harm you more than you've got to let it go. And also talks about kindness and consideration. Kindness, caring, is contagious, and also that love is the most important power there is in the world, in the universe.
That it is for sure.
Yeah.
Something.
So that's one of the things that I've worked on. The other thing, I've just finished a book on spiritual science, and it's using science to back the thinking of spirituality.
Spiritual science, is that the same idea behind it as you mentioned in one of your emails about a few days ago, about where do I have it, this spiritual triangle, or is that something else?
Yeah, no, the spiritual triangle is definitely a part of the book. Science has shown there's a few things that happen. First of all, somehow quantum particles react to us, and we don't quite know how come, but when an experiment is done, the outcome changes when we are observing it compared to if nobody was around. And so that shows us that there's some interaction going on with ourselves and particles. Another thing is that there have been numerous scientists who talk about that nothing exists until we want to measure it, that it just isn't there until we're going to measure it, which is really weird when you think about it. I mean, that's pretty crazy. So that's one piece of the. So to me, that is somehow there's something going on with the human consciousness, and maybe not just human, but we only know about human. So there's something going on with the human consciousness and the universe.
Yes.
Then there are research done on the brain that shows that there's a delay between when we're going to react to something, we get a message of some sort, or a signal or something that happens in the brain before we know what we're even going to be reacting to. We don't even see it, but already our brain is sending signals. And
a kind of precognitive information.
Yeah, it's actually no. It's an actual tested thing that, and I think Ions did the that would be Radin, Dr. Radin. I think he did the first test and found out that for him there was about 4 seconds the advanced signal before and they were showing people pictures and videos and things just to check the brain's reaction to things. That was all they were doing. But
Yes.
all of a sudden, they didn't expect to find this. They found that there was this signal happening before, and they didn't quite understand it. So then other people picked up, and they did all kinds of tests. And that, I mean, it's been well done. And they found out that it's anywhere from 4 to 10 seconds. And the averaging it all out is 7 seconds before we know what we're even going to be walking, that there's this delay, or advance, I should say. And so that tells me, because I'm a spiritual person, that somehow our consciousness is linked to something beyond here. And for me, that would be the source, because I see us as being one with the source. But anyway, so that's my interpretation of it, that somehow we're connected to the source. And then people who have had death experiences talk about, very few of them get an opportunity, not very few, but not nearly as many as the average one that you listen to. Many people go into this, enter into the light. And some of those people find themselves melting into the light and actually becoming the light. And then they find themselves creating with the light. And they feel that they are the light. They remember that they had a life as so-and-so.
It sounds as if our consciousness, wherever that may be, whatever the location might be of our consciousness, is recognizing something.
Yes, exactly. So one of the things that people will ask the source, the light, whatever, how creation happens. And one of the things that by the way, people who have had death experiences, we all heard about this, anybody who knows about death experiences, the magnificent amount of love that they are filled with. Well, it turns out that all that love is coming from the source. And so it's coming from this magnificent light and so people will see sort of an illusion of creation or an example of creation. Mm-hmm. It's sort of like a fountain pouring out tons of water, except that this is love. It's pouring out tons and tons of love. It just keeps pouring and pouring, but there's no drain. And so it just floods and floods and floods into the universe. And it's this love that is coming from the source is the essence of the source. It's the source's essence of its being. It's not an emotion. It's sort of like the source's soul. And so that is that's the consciousness of the source. Yeah, that's okay. That's the consciousness of the soul filling the universe. And so there's our triangle. We have our connection to source, our connection to the universe, and the source's connection to the universe, and our connection. And so there's the triangle. I hope I explained that in an understandable way.
When I recap that is that when we pass on, when we cross that border or walk through that door that is standing between what we know as reality and what might be after that reality we are living in right now, that in the moment that is happening, we somehow are connecting with everything but everything around us, even the things that we do not see with our eyes or hear with our ears, that the universe has a particular sound or vibration, that people in this realm have this kind of vibration, and then this higher source that is connecting everything together, and that we are tapping in that moment, in that vibration, in that particular light, if I may call it like that. Do I recap that correctly?
Yeah, except that we don't have to be dead. It's actually here now in the universe right this second. We are connected right now. And all of that is true today. The point is that we don't recognize it because we get so wrapped up into living this life.
Yes.
But in reality, this is an illusion. And that's what you're picking up with these
the reason why we are not tapping into this is probably because we are so distracted by everything around us that we think that we see.
Yeah, when we do come into this existence, we give I might have talked about this before, but I don't think so. We give ourselves a goal. The soul decides, okay, I'm going to go into physical existence as a human. I will give myself this goal. The goal that is chosen is always for the betterment of the world, always. Mm-hmm. And so then it designs the people that we're going to have connection with. Not everybody, but those who are significant are the ones that it brings into there. It will bring in experiences, all the experiences that are significant to accomplishing the goal. And that's important to keep in mind. And then we also design events. And then we design ourselves. We design what race we are, what nationality, what country, what we look like, whether we're beautiful or plain, or whether we are intelligent or have a disability, all those things, everything. We design with the goal in mind, okay? And so my point is two things. Number one, not everybody you meet is going to be part of that goal. Like the guy on the bus would not have anything to do with your goal unless you were connected with him in some way. The same with experiences. Not every experience matters unless it has a specific role in our goal. So then when we come into this life, we've forgotten everything. We forget, we have amnesia. We don't remember any of that planning. And so we're just muddling through. We see ourselves as physical human beings, and we create a personality which becomes our ego, and we live as a human being. We don't even know about that other stuff that we did as a soul. You know, we're just only concentrating, and that's where our concentration is here. And so that's what your question is, that we are so attached to this existence that we don't see ourselves as spiritual until we are spiritual.
Do we have to die or have a near-death experience, come back and tell the world our visions, our experiences, to give the rest of the people this new or reconnection with the source? Do we have to die for that?
No. There are many people do it in a couple of different ways outside of dying. You can get the same connection through deep meditation. And you can also do it through, what is it called? Out of body. Well, okay. Not a spontaneous out of body experience, because those are flashes. They happen very brief and they're over with, and there's very little extra things that happen with it.
Mhm.
But there are other people who teach themselves to be out for long periods of time and will have, you know, significant experiences, and they also can have learning, spiritual learning, because they can actually even go to the spirit level and connect with their guides and see their loved ones outside of their body. So that brings a lot of learning as well.
You mentioned this connection that we might have, and that somehow, as I try to understand it, that as if we are recognizing something, or that our consciousness is recognizing something in the moment that we pass on or walk through that door. A few days ago, I watched an interview on YouTube from Dr. Sheen Carroll. And he was talking about quantum immortality and how spontaneous collapses are happening without our observation. And while I was listening to his interview, I will send the link, I will place the link in the description box below. But I was thinking while listening to him that when he was explaining that the atom is for 99.99% emptiness, or everything else is, most of the thing is emptiness, that this emptiness does not have to be empty per se. Dr. Shinkaro also mentioned, I believe very briefly, it could contain from waves. Now, what if these waves is our consciousness? I mean,
Yeah.
in the moment that we are emitting the too much waves that we have in each atom in our body, and that is a zillion of atoms. So we are emitting zillions of too much waves, and those waves are hitting an atom for instance, a film camera or a laptop or a piece of plastic. And in that moment that these waves are coming together, that moment of collision, a natural way of collision, that collision is what we observe and thus make our reality. But that same collision can also be that eerie beeping sounds in the moment that somebody dies. So is that our consciousness? Do you think that this moment of, oh no, better said, the waves, the emptiness in our atoms, is that a long question?
No, that's fine. It's okay. I'm trying to think of how I can explain it. We are consciousness. That's our reality. And we are constantly creating right here in this existence. We create our life every moment of every day, constantly. We don't ever not create. And so this connection that you're talking about is our creation. Okay. We're the ones creating the atom. We're the ones creating everything we see.
So then it's more than logic. Then it's more than logic that an atom is that much emptiness if we are consciousness, because our consciousness needs a particular space, better said, because there is no location and there's no momentum, so they say. So we need a particular space to place our consciousness in and to be. So it sounds almost logic that the emptiness.
Because we don't need a place to place our consciousness, because our consciousness already is. It's as full as it could possibly already be. What we need is, no, we don't need anything. What we are doing is creating, constantly creating that And so that's where consciousness is, in the process of creating constantly. We create second by second, moment by moment. We know that we create our own death experience. Many people, you hear that repeatedly, that when we die, what we experience is often created by us. And there's proof, and I can give you proof of that. But in the exact same way, but we are not conscious of it, we are creating this existence. We are not human beings. We are not this kind of physical consciousness. That's not us. Our consciousness is ethereal, source consciousness. That's what our consciousness is source consciousness. But we don't know that. So we are constantly creating. There's not a second, any time that we are not creating this existence, this bottle and this TV and this interview. We're creating it.
So the moment that we have this near-death experience, that moment that you slide into that, we create that.
Oh, we've created before that.
Okay.
Yeah, we're creating right this second. I know that's far too people believe, because we're so wrapped up in, when we come here, and I said we have amnesia, we completely forget what
we are being reset.
Yeah, constantly. Every second of every day, we're resetting it.
Okay. I'm thinking back. I was very young. And I had a miscarriage, so I had to undergo an operation, and that was just for one day. But something odd happened in that moment, and I'm not quite sure if I have imagined that, or because I have probably heard something about near-death experiences and afterlife and etc., or that I really experienced that. But I was on this table, on this operation table, and suddenly I had this weird kind of awareness, and the whole room was lit up in a particular odd color of green, and there were two people standing on each side of the operation table, but they were like shadowy figures, but I could really see that these were people and not creepy shadows from a demonic realm or something. But I was looking down on myself. I think that I was about 1.5 meters or 2 meters floating above my own head, but I was looking down on everything else. Do you think that I died in that moment?
Oh, could be. Yes, absolutely. Very much could be. They didn't tell you that, so we're not sure. Do you remember seeing your body?
Yes, I could see my body.
Okay, and so they were just operating and they weren't doing anything like trying to resuscitate you?
No.
Okay, so it was probably an out-of-body experience then. But out-of-body experiences are they're the same thing. The only difference is the body's dead. That's the big thing.
Okay, so was my body dead, or was I still alive and was
you were still alive in this existence. Yeah, but your soul had just left the body for a minute or two.
Why does that happen?
Oh, it happens. Well, I'm wondering that myself. I think maybe it happens because of the anesthetic, and you're disconnected already, and so it's just so easy for your rest of you to just relax and leave.
Yeah.
Because very frequently, the reason why more people don't have out-of-body experience is because we're telling ourselves to stay in here. we're nervous, we're frightened about what would happen if we die, and so we instruct ourselves, no, you're here.
Yeah, we are afraid to let go because we have no idea, no clue what is behind that door. And what happens if I truly step out of my body and leave it behind? And where do I go? Can I come back? Am I still aware of everything that is still here? I think we are a little bit too materialistic.
Oh yeah, oh absolutely. But keep in mind, in order for we are having this experience for a reason. And the reason is to give back to the source. That's why we're here at all. And so one of our jobs as being human is to connect to this world and be immersed into it, you know? And so this is a necessary element of being human, is to just be in it. And so it's very hard for some people to get that we're not really here, that we're creating this second by second, because we're source creating this second by second. It's not Lynn creating this second by second, it's the source. And source is creating every second of every day, of every moment, but we see it as separate element because we are separate. We've had this illusion of separateness.
How do you research this?
I have researched this all my life. 67, 68 years. I started off researching just religions, because back in the 50s, that's all there was. There wasn't any of this open kind of concept of spirituality. And then when it became more open, of course, I dove into that because that was right on. That was perfect for me. Then the other thing happened was that I had a significantly spiritually transformative experience. And so that didn't change me, but it helped me to understand at least mostly, what I'd already been studying. And so that was cool. I really enjoyed that. And I was reading these two books together, The Course of Miracles and Joel Goldsmith. And that made everything go click. And I understood. Oh, and then the research for the death experiences through Dr. Long, that put every question I'd ever asked, just because I already had a good understanding through those two books together. But then when I did the research on the death experiences, I was blown away, because there it was, everything. So that's where I got the biggest amount of understanding, is through the Course of Miracles, all of those things put together, I think, really. Yeah.
It's like as if the source put a finger on the top of your head and said, "Hey, Mrs. Russell, here you are. Here's the information that you need. And now you have to go to work with it and understand it completely so that you can go out into the public with it and teach about these experiences."
I think actually, when my soul was developing this future life I was going to have, this was part of the plan. Yeah, I think somehow this must have been it only makes sense because I, as the only spiritual one in a family of 6 people, and and even when I was made fun of, I was still kept hold of my spirituality. And I sometimes stumbled and thought, I don't know, maybe I'm lying, maybe this is all bull, but I kept coming back, it kept fitting. So that's how I think it all came about.
I think that is the call. I have that myself. I am sensitive for all kinds of vibrations and waves around me, regardless if it is a very remote one or something that is standing 2 meters for me. And I think that is this particular call when it happens frequently and for a longer period. Somehow you start to react to that or
Yeah.
start to ask questions,
Yeah.
even though if it's in your head or that you voice it or that you mail it to somebody for yo, I saw, I heard, I think that, I think that is the call from the source, putting
Yeah.
its finger on top of your head, or better said, on that white, bright color chakra.
Well, actually, see, here's what I'm telling you. I am the source, just as you are the source. We are, as source, source is creating this illusion of you being over there and me being here. And so the finger is perpetually, it never goes.
Okay.
It's
Can I
always,
create my own Ferrari?
actually, no, but
Darn.
there is a system. There is a system. Here's what I told you about the triangle. Okay,
Yes.
so the other link to that is understanding our reality as two things. Consciousness. We are source consciousness. Okay?
Yes.
And as I said, it was all this love flowing out of the source that is created this existence. And so that's our reality. Okay? So with being source consciousness, all we need to do is to realize that we need to keep our consciousness positive. Because, and I know people talk about this, it's very popular right now to talk about positive, and they're right, but understanding it. We have control over what we think. No one else has control over what we think. And we can decide if it's going to be a positive thought or a negative thought. And because it's so important to keep in touch, because, okay, David Chalmers, he's a philosopher scientist. He's said that the consciousness is a basic element of the universe. It's a fundamental element of the universe in the same, exactly the same way as gravity, electromagnetism, and the two nuclear forces. So
Yeah.
we have a fifth force, which is consciousness. Okay. Now, it is completely neutral, just exactly the same way that gravity is neutral or electricity is neutral. If we can't jump off the planet, we know we're going to come back down. And the same thing with electricity. If we put our finger in a socket that's turned on without a bulb, we get a shock. We know that. Everybody would get it. The same for every single soul, no matter how big, how small, whoever. Everyone gets the same shock. Okay. Well, this consciousness, this universal consciousness, operates in exactly the same way. It's neutral. It's completely neutral. It doesn't care what you put out there. It will give you what you put out. So if you put out negative, that's what you get. Now, we know about this. We've heard about it, but we haven't quite put the pieces together yet. And there's the piece. It's neutral. It doesn't care. It'll give you what you have. Whatever you put out, if that's what you want, that's what, okay, here you are. It gives it to it. if we keep our positive thoughts, if we keep ourselves as positive as possible, and there are ways to do that, even if you're basically negative, then we're putting that kind of thought out, and then that's what comes back. But we have to understand that link. We have to understand that we are linking to electricity, or to gravity, or to, this consciousness. And if we understand that, then more things do happen for us that are positive.
Do you think that we can see near-death experiences equal to quantum immortality? Quantum immortality, as they say, and I hope that I have understood this theory well enough, is that if you die here, there are multiverses beyond. They say, some people say, that in every universe there is a you, a little bit different.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
when you die here, you keep living over there, etc., etc. If we experience a near-death experience and we step over and we see whatever it is that we see, or whatever that is that we create in that moment,
Sure.
can we consider that as a parallel universe and thus quantum immortality? You think?
Oh, that's interesting.
Okay.
Okay, so there are multiverses, and there are multiple, but the theory is that because it's infinite, there are infinite possibilities, and the infinite possibility is the possibility of us. It's a probability possibility thing that we could be duplicated, because anything can happen. That's the point. And so we could be duplicated this, there, and there. But there's no proof of that. There's no, it's just a theory, And
Yes.
it'll stay a hypothesis because there's no way of testing it. There's no way of finding out. So that would be my reaction, is that it's possible. But I don't think, but then in the same way of the oneness, and that we are all part of the source, so is the multiverses, and so are all the different forms of life there. And so it's very possible that that life is part of the same source we are. And so, because it's all one soul.
I know I asked sometimes very irritating, nasty questions, which nobody was prepared for, not even me. So,
Go for it.
but when I listen to people and their explanations and etc., my mind goes into multiply directions, and then somewhere there's this moment. Perhaps it's this finger of the source pointing in my head chakra, saying, "Hey, perhaps you should ask this one." That is, well, probably a nice question to ask. So, but you wrote a book about how quantum physics can explain near-death experiences and out-of-body experiences. The title of your book is Your Quantum Consciousness. Can you tell us a little bit about why did you wrote it, and what is it? Well, perhaps a little bit detailed about what it is speaking about.
Okay, why I wrote it. Just as I've told you in the triangle, there are parts of quantum physics, including holograms and black holes and the behavior of particles and many other things that all go together to show that something is there. something beyond.
Yes.
And then
Mm.
I have my studies that I've done for most of my life, plus I have the near-death experiences, the information from there. And I had a teeny tiny near-death experience many years ago, back in 72.
What was it about?
What happened was that I was very ill. I was running a high fever, and I was in bed, of course. And 1 second I was in my body, and the next I'm out. That's it. 1 minute. And then I was in a tunnel. I just went immediately to a tunnel. I didn't have any part to look at my body or any of that. I was bang in my tunnel. And this was a smoky tunnel. But there was this man with me. Now, I'm guessing he was a guide, but I was confused about who he was and what he was doing here. And I saw him as a priest, and I was non-religious, remember? So I didn't have any, what was a priest doing in there? I did understand that I had died. That I knew. That wasn't a question. And by the way, everybody understands. As soon as they die, they know they have died. So anyway, I knew I was dead. There was this man beside me, dressed as a priest, and I was confused. And so I said to him, "What's happening and who are you?" And he didn't answer me. He just laughed. And I wasn't thrilled with that. But anyway, because I was so confused about how come I had this, and maybe I thought of something funny to him. Anyway, so I'm going up, we're going up, and I see the pinprick of light. And then this huge voice, big booming male voice, of course, because that's what I would create at that time, come down and says, "Take her back, it's not her time." And so this man with me says, "But she died." And the source said, "Take her back, she has much left to do." And the next second I was in my body, and that was my death experience. So it wasn't much, not like people going through the light and seeing these beautiful places and seeing their past loved ones and that kind of thing. I never had any of those things. I just had the tunnel and back again. And the next moment I was in my body, and I was awake, but I was awake before. So, I never fell asleep during any of this that I know of. I actually, for a long time, thought it was because of a hallucination, because of my high fever. So I just stopped it off until I read about death experiences, and then I went, well, not my study. I mean, Raymond Moody's book. When I read that, it was, oh, that's kind of what I had. So yeah, that's when I found out it was a near-death experience.
And after that, you walked a remarkable path. You studied world religions. You researched together with many experts what near-death experiences are, out-of-body experiences are, and the stories people have brought back after their own personal experience. So, but then you wrote, recently you have written this book, Your Quantum Consciousness. And I have had the privilege to read a few pages from there. But there you speak mostly about quantum physics. You speak about the double slit and how observations are going and quantum particles. Absolutely my kind of thing. But how? Because those two things are so separate from each other. On the one hand, you have the spiritual idea and theories and stories and experiences. And on the other hand, you have well, as they say, uh, clear evidence and research done in physics, in quantum physics. How did you brought these two things together?
Well, I was, as I said, I was born in an atheist home, so I'd spent a lot of my life studying spirituality. But the other thing is that when I was around my mid-40s, my mid-30s, so about 45 or so years ago, I became interested in science. One day, I was visiting my mother. I was separated from my husband, and we were all visiting my mother. And so I'm in the kitchen making myself a coffee, and my mother calls me with this urgent voice, like, Lynn, come and see. So I came running, and there was on the computer, on the television, the most magnificent picture I can ever describe. And it was the very first, I think it was a galaxy that I had ever seen. And of course, these were very beginning pictures that science had brought out. And so I was enthralled by this beautiful something or other that was in that. I mean, I knew it was a galaxy, but I was just absolutely blown away by it. And so that got me interested in cosmology. And, and then I stayed with that. Like, I never missed any shows on that. I read all kinds of stuff that I couldn't always understand it because I didn't have any background. So I couldn't do the math. And I had to ignore the math. But what I looked for was their explanations of what it meant. And so once I understood what it meant, then it was like, that makes perfect sense, And so that was a big one for me. That was really major. And then when I was reading something, if I didn't understand, I read it over and over and over until I got it, and I could see how it fit here and here. And then that's how it evolved between the two things. And then, as I said, I made a fool of myself at one time with New Age stuff. And so I wanted something solid that I could stand on, that 2 feet on the ground kind of stuff. And so that's why I put them together in my book.
Well, as the pages that I have read so far, I am like, I'm glued to the pages, to the content. I'm going like, yes, this is quantum physics. Oh God, yes, I know these things. Yes. Oh, and my mind goes, go deeper into the materials. But this is very good advice for young people. When you do not quite understand the math behind it, like me, just keep reading and try to keep your interest in this topic, because after a while, suddenly you get this moment, you say, I got it. I understand. And you don't need to have the numbers. That will come later, if you want that, by the way.
Exactly.
Lynn, I do have one particular question, and I hope you have the answer for that. Did you have ever, or do you have the proof that there is an afterlife?
If there is an afterlife? Yeah, I do actually, but it's huge. So, okay, I'll try and say it briefly. There are so many things that people who've had death experiences come back, information that they couldn't possibly know. For example, they come back with information about where people were, what they were thinking. When they have a death experience, they know, like, say, for example, if they're in an accident and there's a crowd of people around, or even if they're in a operation and there's people in the room, they know what they're thinking and they can tell them later on. They know what that person is concerned about, like whether they're concerned about a child or money or a relationship or a divorce or, things like that. How can they know that? How can they know that that doctor is going through a divorce, or that nurse or that woman standing on the street is upset about her teenager? But they do. They know these things and they can tell them. But there's two experiences that I particularly like that tell the story. One is a woman named Maria, and it's called the Blue Shoe. And Maria was a migrant worker in the southern United States. And she had a heart attack, and when she got to the hospital, she had to have an operation on her heart. And during the operation, she died. When she was recuperating, she insisted that she had seen a blue shoe on a ledge outside the hospital. Well, she couldn't have seen it. And another thing was that she describes it to a T, like it was a man's shoe, it was scuffed up, and that the way it was sitting on the ledge was it had a lace that was going behind it and then hung down the side of the building. How would she know that? So anyway, nobody believed her. They all thought she was daydreaming or something. So anyway, she insisted that that shoe was there. And so the social worker was called, and the social worker is called Kimberly Clark Sharp, and if you look her up, you can find this story. And Kimberly also doubted the woman's story, but she went to look for the shoe. And this was a very large hospital with lots of different wings. And she found the shoe on a completely different floor from the operation where the woman had seen it. And it was in a completely different wing of the hospital. So there was no possible way that she could have seen it. And another thing was that she would have had to be out in the middle of the air looking towards the hospital in order for her to describe it the way that she did with the lace and everything. She had to have been in the middle of the air. And so Kimberly did find it, but she was looking down on it. So it really is quite amazing, the whole story, So that was the first story, and that was proved. Then the other story that I really like is a woman named Stella, and Stella was hit by a car, and she left her body, and she had a death experience. And when she returned, she returned when they were putting her body into the ambulance. So she didn't enter her body again. She floated above the ambulance and went along. And she just was funded. I don't know why. Maybe she was waiting to find out what happened next, kind of thing. I don't know. Anyway, the ambulance got into an accident and was not able to take her the rest of the way to the hospital. So a private vehicle of some sort, I have no idea who, but somebody promised to take her the rest of the way in their vehicle. So they did. Now remember, she's a dead body. In the ambulance, she's a dead body. The soul is up above, but, so this person put the body in her car and took it the rest of the way. And they were able to revive her. Okay, back at the ambulance. When the accident happened, the attendant in the back of the ambulance with her had a ring that was very important to her. It was her mother's ring, and she really loved that, and she loved her mother, and so this reminded her. And so, but when the accident happened, she lost her ring. Her ring fell off. And she looked for it and she couldn't find it. Okay, the next day she goes to visit Stella, who has been revived. And Stella tells her about the accident, about where the ring is, and about the private car that brought her. How could she know those things? That was a dead body in the ambulance. That's what people saw, was this dead body. So those kind of stories tell me something is going on. The third one is a man who died, and this is recorded, and I stress recorded. This man died because other people say that they've been dead longer, but they don't have any recording of it, so there's no way to know. This man was gone for 29 hours, and it was all recorded. He was a sailor in the United States Navy, and he and a bunch of guys were doing diving. And so he was diving with these guys, and he stepped on a poisonous coral, and the poison went into his body. He went into shock. The guys with him saw that he was in trouble and got him back on ship as soon as possible, but he died.
Yeah.
I don't know if he was already dead before he got on the ship, or whether there was maybe something left. But the doctor, for some reason, put an EEG machine on his head to find out maybe if he was really dead. I don't know. Anyway, so the doctor put this machine on, and then the doctor was called away. And so he went away, and 29 hours later, the guy sat up. The machine was still going, it's still running, and all the sticker tape was there.
Okay.
Now
He took
yeah.
the machine off himself.
Yeah, it was still on his head. He hadn't bothered taking it off. Why would he take it off a dead body? You know, it's dead. All right, I've got other things I have to do. Maybe he was called away. Who knows?
Yeah.
So it doesn't prove near-death experiences, but it does prove that something very strange is happening, and that this dead body can come to life.
That is creepy. That is nightmare stuff, really. If I see that happen with my own eyes, I will pee my pants and run out of the room and keep running until I am 50-ish plus extra years older than I'm now.
Well, the doctor was pretty shocked when he saw him.
I can imagine that. That is trauma stuff. That is nightmare stuff. That is beyond being creepy. Do not do. Okay, I still need to go to bed tonight. Oh my God. Okay, fine. Anyway, so it seems that life and reality is a mysterious thing that we are still trying to wrap our mind around, or should I better say, try to wrap our consciousness around. Lynn, I see that we are past the hour, and I'd like to thank you for this amazing interview, because this is such an interesting topic. I can go on and on listening to your stories and asking you questions and etc. But we have so much of the time. So Lynn, can you, before we close out, can you tell us where we can find information about your books, your website, or perhaps that people can contact you on social media, and especially your book, Your Quantum Consciousness? Where can
my quantum consciousness is not published yet, and so it's okay. It's just that the people
something.
No, that's okay. You'll just have to wait, guys. Right now, I'm advertising Warpo, my children's book. So that's the one that I'm hoping to do some sales with.
I'm feeling so
Children's
honored
books are
that I
really,
have already the privilege to read a couple of pages from that. Woo! Yes, people, you have to wait for a couple of months, perhaps, or
no, I don't
how?
even have a publisher yet. Because most
Oh,
people, I was hoping to get an agent, but um, when they see it, it's something that probably they don't think would make very much money. So I probably will have to publish it
well,
without an agent.
well, again, I have read a couple of pages from your new book, your quantum consciousness, and I must say, I find it amazing. It is very easy to read. It is written for the general public.
Yeah.
You do not have to have this in-depth knowledge for quantum physics or about what the hereafter is and all the unexplained realms. It is very easy to read and to understand. And really, Lynn is taking you through a journey, through a path, over a path, through galaxies, through quantum particles. Well, but I'm sorry, you
That's
just have
okay.
to wait
No, it's okay.
for a period of time.
I just sent it to you for a. I'm glad you're loving it. That's great because I asked you to
It's
do
amazing.
I wanted to know about a critique about it. That's what I wanted. So it sounds like you're doing well with it. So that's good. I'll let you
I
know
come
when
back
it's
to you
out.
on that. I come back to
Anyway,
you on that, and
so
I will give you a review, and I will come back to you on that. And when I'm completely finished with the complete content, but so far, wow. So, but for our viewers and listeners, you still have to wait for a particular period of time. I have no idea how long it's going to take. But fasten your seatbelts. This is a very amazing book. Your Quantum Consciousness from Lynn Kathleen Russell. Lynn, can you tell us where we can find other information about your other books,
yeah,
the book Whirlpool,
yeah.
and where people can find you on social media, contact you?
Well, actually, I have the second edition of The Wonder of You, what the near-death experience tells you about yourself. And that one has a condensed version of the science, your quantum
Oh,
consciousness. So if people want to get an idea of what it's going to be about, then they can read that. And how you can get in touch with me is really easy. I'm on Facebook, Lynn K. Russell. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Twitter. And I have a website, and my website is lynnKrussell.com. Very easy.
I'd like to thank you all for tuning in today on the Next Truth podcast's Let's Ask Questions. Make sure to visit our website. That is www.nexttruth.com. That is nexttruth, all in one word, .com. And let us know what you think about our podcasts. While you're at it, if you find value in this show, we would appreciate a rating on our website in the section Testimonials. Or subscribe to our YouTube channel and share the links on your social media. I am Marianne van Driel with The Next Truth. Let's ask questions. Be sure to stay tuned for our next episode.